So during the walking tour, you take us to some buildings and you
Yes.
describe the different stories that took place in those buildings.
Yes.
But there's a point in the walk where you take us to this one street, and you said that some time ago, fairly recently, during one of your ghost walks, you guys actually saw the spirit of a woman.
Yes, that's right. I was stood with a crowd of people referring to the story of the ghosts of the Roman soldiers. And whilst I was standing there relating the story, just down the street there was a woman standing there in the middle of the road, dressed in an old-fashioned Victorian costume. And I thought she was just like a normal person dressed up. But when we started walking towards her, she kind of stepped out of our way and she stepped onto the pathway and she just literally disappeared into the wall in front of all of us. And it literally freaked the crowd out because it was the first time for a long time that a whole crowd, including myself, actually saw a ghost altogether. That was about 40 people.
When was this?
And that was about 3.5 weeks ago.
3.5 weeks ago.
3.5 weeks ago.
And how long have you been doing the ghost walks?
I've been doing the ghost walk now for 44 years in York.
44 years.
44 years, yes.
Wow. And this is the first time you experienced something like this?
No, we've had other things happen. One night I was stood outside a gateway of a very old property, the treasurer's house again actually, and I was stood behind a light above my head, and suddenly what happened was a shadow came over the top of the crowd, and everybody ducked because I thought something was falling on the top of them. And when I looked up I saw this black, like a rectangular object. It looked like, I described it as a magic carpet, but just pure black, and it just came swooped down and it just swooped up above the crowd and just disappeared into the darkness above us. And everybody was absolutely terrified. I mean, it was the most unusual thing that I'd ever seen. It was dark, it was very sinister, it wasn't normal, let's put it that way.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to get towards. Because in India, we have a lot of ghost stories, different kinds of ghost stories from different states, sometimes stories of benevolent ghosts. But the fact that there are benevolent ghosts tell me that there's evil ghosts as well,
Oh yeah,
right?
there's a definite contrast between the type. What you've got to bear in mind when it comes to the supernatural or the theory of ghosts is that when you're living, whoever you are when you're alive, if you're a bad person or a good person, when you die, you take that with you. And as a ghost, that carries on. So in other words, if you've got a murderer or a nice person's a nice person in the spirit world, and a murderer or somebody malevolent and evil will be evil in the spirit world. But there's also that some people believe in reincarnation, that when you get there you pay your penance, and when you come back as a human, then basically your whole life can be changed. You pay your penance after death. But there are plenty of evil ghosts, and I've always said to people on my ghost walk, don't play about with things that you shouldn't, such as things as a Ouija board, when you try to contact the dead, because you never know who you're speaking to. It's a very dangerous thing to be doing. I always try to say to people, don't dabble in the things that you don't know.
I want to ask you about this incident from 3.5 weeks ago when that woman appeared in the middle of the road.
Yes.
Do you remember her face?
No, she was in the darkness, you see. She was just a shadow. She was just a complete silhouette. So she was stood in the shadows. There was no light on her because the street's quite dark. But she was definitely there. We all saw her. And she stood there for at least 5 or 6 minutes during the time that I told the story of the treasurer's house and its Roman soldiers. And then when I started walking with the group, she moved out of our way, she stepped onto the path, and she just walked straight through a solid brick wall. And when we got there it was, a solid door. It was a bricked up doorway, all bricks, that had been once an entrance to a house or a building somewhere. So whoever she was, it's the first time I'd ever seen her, and I've done some research since we've seen her, and nobody's ever seen her since, or before.
Was it a sinister spirit?
Whoever she was intent on keeping her eye on us. She knew we were there, and she never moved in all the time until we started moving down the street, which was Chapter House Street, just by the treasurer's house. She knew we were there, and we knew she was there as well. And normally when it comes to ghosts, you only see them for a fraction of a second. They go very quick. They're there, and they're gone.
Have you ever been scared?
Only that time when I had to run down the lane when I felt I was being chased by some dark spirit of some kind, something that was sinister. It was on my case, and whatever it was, I believe it was a spirit of the forest.